Right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Metro Inner Development Assessment Panel. I declare the meeting open at 9:32 a.m. and acknowledge we're hosting this meeting on the traditional land of the Wadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. We acknowledge the Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of Western Australia. We respect to elders past and present, and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters, and community. The meeting will be run in accordance with the DAP Standing Orders and DAP Regulations 2011. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the DAP website. By being present at the meeting, attendees consent to the possibility that their voice and their image may be live streamed to the public. Recordings are also made available on the DAP website and YouTube page. Panel members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information before them. I'd like to introduce the members that will be participating today. My name is Dale Page. I'm the presiding member today. With me in the room, I have the Deputy Presiding Member, Francesca Lafanti, and online we have Heidi Herget, Specialist Member. We also have Councillor Suzanne Midgedale from the City of Stirling online and Councillor Michael Dudek online from the City of Stirling as well. Welcome to you all. Item 2, apologies. Councillor Rob Papada is an apology today from the City of Stirling. Item 3, noting of minutes. Minutes of all previous meetings are available on the DAP website. Part B of our agenda today, the City of Stirling. Item 1, declaration of due consideration. Panel members need to have considered all the documentation contained within Part B of the agenda and the Part B related information. Could I please confirm by a show of hands that members have considered all information? Thank you. Disclosures of interest. Could I check with our local government DAP members whether either of these items have been before you at a council briefing or a meeting? No? Great, thank you very much. I haven't received any other disclosures of interest to this point. Do any members have any declarations they'd wish to make?
No.
Thank you. All right, moving then on to our item 3, our Form DAP 1 applications for Stirling today. Our first item, I'm not going to read through all the land description, but it's essentially a new commercial development and alterations to an existing service station on Scarborough Breeds Road, DAP number 25/0274. We have 2 presenters on this item today. We have Alex Campbell from Urbis online, speaking against the application, and we have Josh Watson from Planning Solutions, Taryn Stain from Windsor Knight, Paul Gantos, Irby, and Graham Taylor from Place Fabric in the room, speaking in support of the application. Just so that you're all aware, the applicant team, instead of granting them 3 minutes each, I've granted them an overall 10 minutes for their presentation. Alex Campbell from Urbis, you have your normal 3 minutes. Do we have Alex online?
Yes, you do.
All right, given your presentation times are limited, we have read everything you have provided to us. So I'm encouraging you to stick to the key points you want to get across within your time frame. I'll call you to time when you get there, and then the panel members will be able to ask questions of you. So Alex, your presentation starts when you are ready.
Thank you, and good morning, presiding members and panel members. Yes, my name is Alex Campbell from Urbis, and I'm appearing on behalf of Centre Group, a nearby landowner of the development site. We acknowledge that retail investment has an important role to play in supporting a successful urban centre, and that investment within the Stirling City Centre should be encouraged. Our concern is not with retail development in principle, rather it is whether this particular proposal is consistent with the strategic planning outcomes of the Stirling City Centre framework and what it's intended to deliver. So we respectfully submit that 3 planning issues warrant careful consideration. First, the proposed supermarket with a net level area of approximately 3,700 square metres risks undermining the intent of the applicable planning controls. The officer's report acknowledges that the 10,000 square metre threshold was established to encourage smaller scale retail tenancies at this location and to guide larger format retail development to more appropriate locations within the retail core of the city centre precinct. While a technical interpretation of the controls has been relied upon to support approval, we submit that the panel should also give significant weight to the strategic intent behind those provisions. In our view, The proposal is a type and scale of retail development. Those controls were intended to manage carefully in this location. This concern is reinforced by the alternative recommendation at Appendix 11 of the report, which reinforces the ambiguity in the assessment and provides a rationale that the shop use may not be capable of approval on this site because it exceeds the net lettable area contemplated for the mixed use land use category and conflicts with the scheme land use table. In addition, both the officer's report and the alternative recommendation identify that development does not include a residential component, which raises further issues with the consistency with of the mandatory residential requirements applying to the Stirling City Centre Special Control Area. Taken together, these matters call into question whether the proposal is an appropriate form of development for this site. Second, the proposal does not appear to reflect the intended role of Scarborough Beach Road as a highly active pedestrian-orientated frontage and future transit corridor. While the application suggests the supermarket will contribute to activation, large format supermarkets are typically inward-facing, often characterised by shelving, back-of-house functions, and limited engagement with the street. As a result, the proposal is unlikely to deliver a vibrant and active urban edge that's envisioned by the planning framework. Third, the proposal raises broader questions about the long-term vision for the Stirling City Centre. The planning framework seeks to create a vibrant, mixed-use, transit-oriented metropolitan centre supported by active streets, high-quality urban design, and a diversity of land uses. We're concerned that the proposal reinforces a vehicle-oriented retail model that doesn't fully align with that vision and may establish an undesirable development within the centre. For these reasons, we respectfully request that the panel give consideration to whether the proposal genuinely advances the strategic objectives of the Stirling City Centre planning framework and whether approval would support the long-term vision for this important metropolitan centre. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Alex. On your 3 minutes, so thanks for that. Questions from panel members for this presenter. I'm going to start with members online, but Heidi, I'm just going to start with the local government members. Councillor Mitchdale, do you have questions of this presenter? We can't hear you, sorry.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Sure can, yeah.
Thank you so much for your deputation this morning. I guess I'd just like you to make further comment with regards to the current LPP 4.2, which is out for advertising or has been out for advertising. Regarding the mixed-use design guidelines, please, Alex.
I haven't actually looked at that draft policy prior to this meeting, but I can definitely have a look and come back to you.
Thanks.
Further questions, Councillor Mitchdale?
No.
Thank you. Councillor Duda, questions of this presenter?
Yeah, just one brief one. You mentioned about how this design's missing any residential component, and just wondering if you think residential would be appropriate for this area. I mean, as I know it, the amenity of the Scarborough Beach Road anyway isn't really conducive to that with all the shops around. But perhaps you can just expand on that a tiny bit and explain it to me. Obviously, it's part of the plan. So just, yeah, expand on that a bit.
Yeah, so as a broader principle, these centres zones encourage residential land use. So when the Stirling City Centre planning framework was developed, they wanted a mandatory residential component just to help activate some of these uses, you know, for during the day and during the night. I understand that, you know, it is a fairly high trafficked street environment, but there is plans to put light rail, and the Stirling planning framework has looked at protecting the corridor for light rail in the future. And with the implementation of that light rail, it should encourage more transit orientated built form outcomes. And so this particular site is right on the boundary of that future transit corridor. So I think it's an appropriate location for a mixed use typology, which typically requires some level of residential development.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions, Councillor?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Heidi, questions of this presenter?
Yeah, just one to Alex. My understanding is in terms of what was appended to the RAR was that you had engaged SLR Consulting to undertake what I guess I would consider a peer review of the transport network parking assessment undertaken by the applicant's consultant. Any reason that that wasn't appended to the RAR? Was there any engagement with council? Was it done by, I guess, an individual or a group that was familiar with the conditions along that stretch of road and the general area within the Stirling city centre?
I can't speak on behalf of the city's officers, not including that technical note in the RAR. But that was to just review the traffic implications of the development.
Okay, so was there any engagement with council following the results of your peer review?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, and were the findings actually made available to council, like in terms of a letter or report?
Yes, we provided a letter last year, which outlined our concerns with the development.
That's that last question I had. Was it undertaken by, I guess, individual familiar with the area, based in Perth, someone that knows what the issues are in a particular area?
The traffic consultant, yeah, was familiar with the traffic conditions and the issues of the area.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Hergert. Member Lafanti, questions of this presenter?
I have one question, if I may. My one question, thank you for your presentation. My one question essentially reads to your comments about capability of approval. Can you clarify for me, are you saying that in your view, there is not the discretion for us to determine it, or you're saying you don't believe we should because of the strategic intent?
I think there is a question on the level of discretion you can apply to the development as a approving authority. So with regard to the level of discretion, the DAP sits in the shoes of a City of Stirling decision maker under their local planning framework. Under the scheme, there is a level of discretion, but our interpretation of the land use table, it's the shop large is not a permitted use within the mixed use zone within this precinct. Therefore, we call into question if that's considered an X use, not a discretionary use. And that's a technical interpretation that's outlined in the report by the officers. Our view is, given the strategic intent of the planning framework to include retail development within the core precinct, which this sits outside of that core precinct for larger retail, we believe more of a finer grain retail development outcome should be encouraged on this site rather than large format retail. So therefore, the level of discretion we believe is not warranted in this situation, in this instance.
Thank you. That's my only question.
Thanks. Alex, before you go, I've got a few questions, if you don't mind. So I note the concerns you've raised in your submission and today during your deputation about the build form and activation outcomes that are being proposed here. So how do those matters affect your client directly?
Not necessarily impacting the client directly. It's just more the strategic intent. Obviously, they've got large land holdings within the core. They want to see development and large format retail where they think is most appropriate, which is in the retail core of the centre. And so in our view, we are making a deputation on behalf of our client to reinforce that position. And when you look at the planning framework and the development before you today, we believe that there are some misalignments with what's being proposed versus what the strategic intent of the Stirling City Centre is. Okay,
so thanks for that. If the larger tenancy that's being proposed was split into more smaller tenancies, I'm not saying we'll do that, but if we were being asked to consider an application with smaller tenancies, would your client then be supportive of the development?
I gather they would. As I said, as I outlined at the start of my presentation, we're not against retail development. We think retail development is critical for that centre, and the more retail development where it is appropriately located is fully supported by our client. It's just that when you look at the planning framework, it does encourage finer grain along this corridor, given it's a transport corridor that's got a future light rail envisioned for it. So what you currently see is just a large blank wall facing the Scarborough Beach Road, and more of an internalized pedestrian outcome.
Okay, thank you. One last question from me, and it goes to the discretion that you've talked about before. Are you contesting in any way that the local development plan that applies to the site is not a due regard document? Are you saying it has greater weight than that?
No, it is a due regard document. So I would probably be more looking at the probably giving more weight to the special control area provisions under the city's local planning scheme, which talks about the mandatory residential requirement as well as the land use table. And again, you've got the question of, is the shop large permitted within this particular location? The local development plan just provides some guidance in terms of where those zones are located within the Stirling city centre. It's quite a convoluted planning framework, I must admit. So,
So just building off that, then the mandatory residential for this particular site appears that actually falls to the LDP, because there's no structure plan over the site. It appears that requirement for residential falls to the LDP for this site, and that's why I'm asking what sort of weight, or whether you're contesting that it is a due regard document only if you are pretty certain that it's absolute that residential needs to be provided. But in this case, that requirement falls to the LDP, which is a due regard document. I'm trying to understand your certainty on that position.
Yeah, as I said, I would probably say under the scheme, it does reference mandatory residential requirements, and then the residential requirements are further explained through the local development plan. So while the LDP is a due regard document, it does its consideration is anchored in the local planning scheme itself.
Okay, thank you. Unless there are more questions of Alex, we will move now to the applicant team. Josh, you're leading the presentation, is that correct? Yes. All right, you have your 10 minutes. I'm going to call you to time at 10, and then we'll ask you questions.
Perfect. Thank you, presiding member, panel members and city's officers. I'll be speaking in support of Woodland North Development. Also have Graham Taylor here, our architect from Place Fabric, Taryn Stain, from Windsor Knight, all Gantos, our traffic engineer. Firstly, I'd like to thank the city for their thorough assessment of the application. We've worked with the city for a number of years now through this site and design and technical considerations. We've also lodged the application approximately a year ago, and we've taken the time to work through the various technical considerations and design. And I think that's really reflective in the detailed assessment and RAR put to the panel today. We've reviewed the RAR in detail, and we're fully supportive of the recommendation to the panel today, including all the proposed conditions. I'd firstly like to just quickly respond to the objection received on behalf of Centre Group by Urbis. To put bluntly, I think this is a commercial objection, which is purely focused on the shop use and further retail competition in the area. The objection has simply been masked by components of the planning framework, which I'll respond to the key points that were made in the presentation today. So the main concerns outlined by Urbis were the active frontage to Scarborough Beach Road. It is clear that this design has been through a thorough design process, all the way from the client brief to initial concept designs, feedback from the city, DRP and detailed DA assessment, which the DRP have been quite supportive of. The interaction of the proposed development to Scarborough Beach Road has been a focus of this design. We also need to take into consideration Scarborough Beach Road is a 6-lane arterial road with 30,000 vehicles a day. To ensure a level of amenity and suitable development outcome, the creation of the laneway was necessary to ensure that the commercial component pivoted from the highway, but it also could be functional and a commercial sustainable space. But what that enabled us to do is have active edges to Scarborough Beach Road through the use of glazing, the colonnade, a mixture of materials. We also have the entrance of the laneway to Scarborough Beach Road, and landscaping. So Scarborough Beach Road hasn't been forgotten. It is a key part of our design and articulation of that facade, which, as DRP and City's officers have outlined, a level of support for. And Graham will talk through some of the components of that shortly as well. In relation to the 1,000 square metre floor area requirement, we support the City's position and comments made in their RAR and also our presentation summary, which we provide some further commentary on. Also, the DAP can approve the shop land use, as the LDP is a due regard documentation. Ultimately, we are of the view that the variation is entirely appropriate in the context of this site and the location along Scarborough Beach Road and the Stirling City Centre. The shop use and overall floor space does not undermine the intent of the planning framework. I would say it's probably quite the opposite. The inclusion of a larger retail tenancy enables the site to realise its commercial opportunities and be a significant development for this corridor, which is what has always been envisaged under that Stirling City Centre. The site in itself is over 10,000 square metres and it has been vacant for over 20 years, and as is a very complex land tenure arrangement. The inclusion of the larger shop tenancy will ensure the sustainability of the development and enable the commercial tenancies to function off that. Ultimately, these other commercial and smaller tenancies would not survive without a more anchored tenant. The site and locality within the Stirling Strategic Centre the site and locality is within that Stirling City Strategic Centre. The development is well below the thresholds of major development when you actually factor in SPP 4.2, and it does not require any further retail analysis. The Strategic Centre encourages this type of development and at this scale. Also, in relation to the transport and traffic matters, the design has been through a rigorous traffic analysis and assessment. This has incorporated transport impact assessment, road safety audit, and also road designs. We've actually had road designs for the Scarborough Beach Road be modified to incorporate bus lanes and then take them out throughout the whole development assessment of this. So we've had to adapt and modify our designs to respond through this whole process. And I think that's quite evident in the detail that's been provided as part of the RAR and commented on by the Department of Planning and the City. So in closing from my end, before I pass to Graham, fully supportive of the RAR, supportive of the proposed conditions from the officers. I think this is an appropriate development for this site and scale, and I think it will be a positive contribution to the Stirling City Centre.
Thanks. I think I have my 3 or 4 minutes. Thank you to presiding and deputy presiding members and to the councillors and staff. My name's Graham Taylor from Place Fabric. We're architects for this proposal. This is essentially a new local centre for the Woodlands area with supermarket anchor and a suite of services, retailers and F&B outlets to service the immediate catchment, much of it from the south and west. And much of that is highly walkable when you look at the connections across Ewan Street into that residential catchment. As Josh has said, we've been to 2 DRPs over several months and lodged responses to both with our DA. The basis of the planning generally is to bury as much of the back end of the development into the ground. As you appreciate, the site rises significantly as you head west up Scarborough Beach Road. This has the effect of concealing the primary service and loading dock below ground level and brings the scale of the buildings as they meet, particularly Ewan Street and the connection of Ewan Street to the main intersection with Odin Road at a much more palatable human scale. We managed to get the anchor tenant to make a significant number of changes to their standard kitchen layout, which is a testament to their desire to be here. And as Josh has alluded to, we have over 25 metres of clear glazing facing onto Scarborough Beach Road, directly into the supermarket's fresh. The DA set didn't contain the supermarket layout, but the DRP certainly saw that layout. Their fresh end, apples and oranges, bananas, bread is all sitting at that northern end into the colonnade space, and the renders that we showed you are correct in terms of what you're likely to see into the store. Secondarily, at the south end on Ewan Street, that's where the checkouts are. We also have a significant 10-metre section of glazing looking out to Ewan Street. Furthermore, onto Scarbridge Road, the gym tenancy has 20 plus metres of glazing facing onto Scarbridge Road, as well as that connection of the laneway and the effect of the travelator itself, where you've got people going up and down. All of those things are activating the north face onto Scarbridge Road. The F&B sleeving, particularly at the Ewan Street end, was intentional. One of those tenancies actually is down at the Ewan Street level. There's some fairly complex levels to deal with here, but it was important that both those tenancies, which are designated as F&B tenancies, turn the corner into Ewan Street to maximise the amount of frontage. And indeed, with the tenancy on the south-western corner is down at street level, where the connection across Ewan Street occurs, pedestrian connection. I mentioned that the travelator expresses is providing activation to the Scarbridge Road frontage. There's a significant component there of public art, resemblant of what we think is a very successful example at the Mount Pleasant Woolworths in Reynolds Road, and also another one that we've done for the same client, Windsor Night, in South Perth, in Angelo Street. So we believe the development sits comfortably in its site. It's providing an amenity and a benefit to the local community. And so we thank the panel for listening to me this morning and appreciate that the RAR is positive and recommends for approval. And we hope that is what the outcome might be.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Questions from members. Councillor Mitchdale, questions of the applicant team?
No, thanks.
Councillor Dudek, questions of the applicant team?
No, I don't have any. Thank you.
Member Herget, questions of the applicant team?
Yes, I have quite a few. I'll start with ones that require some clarification. Has there been a servicing delivery loading management plan prepared for this site?
No, not yet. But we're happy to provide one as a condition, because we typically do that in most of our developments going in the future. Yeah.
Okay. The other question I had related to a parking management plan. Has that been prepared? Parking management, wayfinding, and signage.
Same thing with the waste management. A lot of that stuff we will work out at the detailed design and ensure that we've got appropriate signage to show exits and that sort of thing. Windsor Night have done that with all their shopping centres.
The trigger for that particular question relates directly to the fact that this is either located within or adjacent to the Stirling City Centre. There's been a lot of work done with respect to parking. Obviously, the city has its own local planning policy 6.7. There's been, a significant discussion with respect to parking in the RAR, as well as within the supporting applicant reports. With respect to staff parking, long-term parking, short-term parking, whether it's paid or not and allocated, whether it's public or not, which segues me into my next question. There's a reference to 87 bays of public parking on the site and 174 bays. Is that overall, and that the 87 is contained within that 174 quantum? Or is it 87 plus 174?
Just to clarify, you're talking about proposed condition 24 and 165 commercial bays and a minimum 87 of the commercial bays to be public parking bays.
Okay, so that is within the overall proposed on-site parking. Okay, thank you. Has there been any work done with respect to managing antisocial behavior on the site, a CPTED assessment?
We did answer. We did answer for the DRP's benefit. a number of those questions around SebTed, and I'm sorry I don't have the copy of those notes that we would have made at the time, but we did address that with the DRP.
Okay, but there's not been a standalone assessment that has been done, submitted to council, and then like appended to this RAR.
No, that's correct.
Okay. All right, I'm going to get into some fairly technical questions. So presumably these are directed at the traffic engineering consultant.
Just hold on one sec while we get Mr.
Yep.
Ganfus online.
Should I carry on?
Yep, off you go.
Okay, sorry. All right. I'd just like some clarification what a RAV1 is referred to in the traffic report. There's not a RAV route in this particular area, and RAV1 vehicles relate to sort of overweight agricultural vehicles. So I just need some clarification with respect to that, please.
Sorry, what do you need the clarification for RAV Network 1?
Well, I'm looking at what RAV Network 1 is, and I don't think that's. I just
Okay.
want to make sure that the RAV Network 1 within reports not referring to what is actually referred to on Main Road's website as RAV Network 1.
Okay. Yeah. At the time, this report was prepared originally a few years back, but at the time, basically, it's a as of right status, so it's not excluded. Unless there's a specific road that excludes semi-trailers. So that's the intention behind that comment. That, as mentioned in the report, it says it's an as of right status, which assumes 19-meter semi-trailers can drive on a road unless they've been specifically excluded from the network. So that was the intention.
I'm aware of that. It's just that it specifically refers to the road as a RAV Network 1 road.
Yeah, well, it's not. Yeah, I guess it's just a semantics phrasing thing. It
Okay,
means
so
it's not in the RAV network.
okay, so it's not
excludable. No,
it's not
it's not.
exclusionary. You're allowing for as of right up to 90 meters. Okay.
That's right. Yeah, it might be just a wording thing. It could be interpreted a different way, maybe. But the intention is that you can have 19-meter semi-trailers
Okay.
on Scarborough Beach Road. But I think after this report was prepared, we did have further liaison with the city, and we've now basically reduced the the servicing vehicle size to 12.5 meter HRVs. So that now that was also on a suggestion from the city, and we worked with them. So that's really what the intention is now, and I believe that's also a condition of the approval.
Okay, which brings me to my next question with respect to the metrics associated with service delivery and loading activities and protocols on the site. I saw a reference that in terms of the sweat path, at the rear meaning the southern end along Ewan Street, there's a proposal to allow a maximum size 8.8 meter vehicles to exit. Is that correct?
Yeah, so internally, there's a servicing and loading area internally from Ewan Street.
Yeah.
So the internal loading area is proposed to be 8.8 meter MRV maximum. But again, at the request of the city, they requested that a loading bay be also provided on street, just in case on a random occasion that a larger vehicle was required to use the site. But in terms of our requirements for our operations, we were committed to the 8.8 meter medium Richards, but working with the city and wanting to, have everyone on the same page, we didn't have any issue with providing an extra on-street loading space.
All right, I'm a little bit confused. Looking at the sweat path in the RAR, a heavy rigid vehicle is shown turning out onto Scarborough Beach Road. Is that still proposed to be the case?
On Scarborough Beach Road, yes, that's right. From Scarborough Beach Road, it's 12.5 meter heavy rigids, and from Ewan Street, it's 8.8 meter medium
Okay, so
rigids.
they're entering and exiting that larger type of vehicle, 12.5, are entering and exiting exclusively from and to Scarborough Beach Road. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. And at the rear, meaning the southern end, it's exclusively limited to the 8.8 meter.
That's right.
Which I guess so the maximum size vehicle entering and exiting the site proper, not including the petrol station, which obviously exists to the west of the site, is 12.5 meters. So it's not going to accommodate any 19-meter trucks on this site?
No, not anymore. No.
Okay. So the larger tenancy, which at this time appears to be an unknown tenant, and that's obviously fine. That's commercially in confidence. The applicant is confident that that particular tenancy can be adequately serviced by a vehicle of only 12.5 meters in size in
Correct.
terms of
Yes.
servicing
Correct.
and delivery.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, correct.
All right. Just a couple more questions. Just relating to road safety audit. Have the findings that are documented in what is essentially what we call a CAR, or corrective action report, have those findings been incorporated into updated or modified plans, or I guess potential conditions of approval?
Yes,
Yes, that is correct. So there's a number of, I suppose, traffic engineering conditions on the RAR, and some of those incorporate changes to lighting and minor modifications. So we're supportive of all those conditions and required actions as part of the design.
Thank you. Just a couple that relate to the transport impact assessment. The proportion of passing trade, you know, if these are convenience uses, and clearly it's adjacent to a petrol station, so there's going to be some multi-purpose trip making, some on-site synergy happening. So that ends up with sort of like an overall lesser trip making profile. Any particular reason why the passing trade is so high on a Saturday? It tends to be low, in my experience, lower. I don't believe that it's going to make much of any difference to the overall operations, but I'm just curious as to where that was derived from. And then I guess adding
Let's
to
just get an
that,
answer to, okay. Do you want that
Pardon?
answered before you move on to the next one?
yes, just quickly,
Can you
on
respond
to
to
my
that?
final question.
And the applicant.
Yeah, we took the passing trade percentages from a trip generation manuals, and yeah, we've just applied them consistently with all of our retail projects. So that's really where it's come from. I think it's still an element of convenience, even on a weekend. That this road, it does contain a lot of, I guess, commercial type traffic or regional traffic, and people might plan a route on the way to somewhere else on the weekend, or they might do multi-purpose trips on a weekend. So they might be going somewhere else, especially on Scarborough Beach Road. They might be heading to from anywhere. It could be the beach, and then they'll say on the way to somewhere else, we'll drop into the shop, or on the way back from somewhere else. So people can still, make those multi-purpose trips, and that would generate the passing trade. So that was the reason, being that the location was on Scarborough Beach Road. So we did feel that heavily lends to leveraging the existing traffic on that road, that people using Scarborough Beach Road, they might previously go maybe to a different shop, then they would choose to maybe use this site just because it's conveniently located for them to pull into.
Okay, just a couple of small questions. Just one of the issues that was raised early on in the deputations related to the future function of Scarborough Beach Road. It's obviously extremely busy, congested, highly active, 7 days a week, etc. That's neither here nor there whether we build houses on this particular lot or retail. My question is, was it considered in the future, I guess beyond 10 years, the impact of taking one of the lanes out of Scarborough Beach Road and dedicating it to either an HOV, so a bus lane, or a and wishful thinking potentially a high speed sort of tram line, and what the impact might be on operations along the frontage of the site, and impacts, I guess, vehicle demand for the site if we have this high frequency public transport service along there.
Mm. I think they're good questions, and there's probably only so much I can comment on in terms of the planning for that rapid transit route, whatever form it ultimately takes, because our understanding, we've been in close communication and liaison with both the city and DPLH at the time, and those plans are still, at that time, they were in flux. So I don't know internally if they've changed plans or if they've landed on a specific option. I don't know, but at the time that we did the consultation, there was a potential for what we call a bus lane as an interim method of rapid transit, and then ultimately that lane might turn into something else. But what was the main interest from our point of view in liaising with DPLH was this going to be a median type lane or route, or was it going to be a curbside route? And also how many lanes would be on Scarborough Beach Road? So that was really the information we took from that. Was it was a curbside type service, and the original planning was to be an exclusive bus lane, and we were very clear with communicating to understand what that cross section looked like, and it wasn't an additional lane for buses, it was repurposing a traffic lane into a bus lane. I can't really, I don't have all the detailed modelling and resources of DPLH to judge what the best outcome is on a regional transport level. But that was the planning advice we were given, and we were subsequently told that we need to also allow for a turning lane. So we have had multiple meetings and communications, and maybe planning solutions would like to add their own
Well,
because they
my question,
maybe have more.
Can I
Yeah,
just, thank you, Mr. Gantos. Can I just focus us on the merits of this planning application? I don't want us to get too caught up in stuff that is not going to specifically affect our decision making on this particular application. So back to you, Heidi.
I understand that, but that wasn't my question was it taken into account in future modeling for this particular application, potential changes in the road network?
Yes, it has. We have allowed for future easements for road widening to allow for the city to do its various plans for the future.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Last question. The trip generation for the site, there's a table in the report. Does that include the existing petrol station?
The existing petrol station, we took the traffic from traffic surveys. So we did have in our modelling, we did allow for traffic, but that was just taken from surveys.
No, but in the table in the report, it's not clear if that includes the existing petrol station because there is a reciprocal driveway proposed as part of this particular application.
I'm not sure about the reciprocal driveway. I think they're going to be two separate, so that our development access is now separate. It's
No, but there
separate
is a
from the
there
petrol.
is a connection shown between the existing petrol station and the proposed development.
Yeah, so that's if we look at the newest sweat path sketches, I think they're SK 15 to 17, and we worked with the city to basically yeah, there's no more connection. There's no connection between our site and the petrol station.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Just quickly to the planner or the designer, has there been allowance for trolley bays and direct to boot bays or click and collect bays within the parking supply?
Yes, there is. But both have been allowed for and shown on the plans. Trolley
Okay.
bays and direct to boot bays.
Okay. All right. Those are my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Heidi. Member Lafanti, questions of the applicant?
My only question relates to the central space, the common space central. My question relates to both your floor plan and your perspectives. And it shows a very wide opening to Scarborough Beach Road on the plans. My question specifically is to safety. And I appreciate that this may form part of the fine grain detail. The indication of the nature of the uses would include families and children. So my question is specifically about the safety, or what you anticipate the safety mechanisms would be, particularly for children, given what appears on the document to be a wide opening directly to what is a very busy road.
I think, we want to ensure that people are directed more internally, especially closer to the main part of that. And I understand where the travellators come out. That's probably where the concern is that you're talking about, and where that entrance is to Scarborough Beach Road. We'll work through that as part of the finer detail, and how we can ensure that there is a clear, I suppose, point of difference, so that people are not directed back out onto especially children, in that point. I don't know if you want to add anything further in terms of.
There's various considerations we could take from a design perspective.
There's a surface change, there's a textural change, and the one thing that's not shown in the renders is there will be some bollards in there that they're almost to provide safety for careering vehicles going into the space. So we will add some bollards into there. So we'll provide a number of devices that will demonstrate the division between inside and outside, and obviously plan is, and the reason we put the travellators there is to provide that activation on Scarborough Beach Road, but also to make sure that all the customers walk past as many shops as they can before they get to the primary access into the anchor. So, but your point is well made, so we'll give that some thought.
And I'm assuming that would be ongoing, high-grade and detailed conversations with the city.
Yeah, definitely. If they're as part of that detailed design, we're happy to work that into it.
That's my only question.
Thank you. Just one question for me, probably for Graham. Does the design of the development preclude the addition of residential accommodation in future?
No, it's a question obviously asked, and the reason in the building, the eastern pod is totally separate, is that we actually did do schemes to show how in 20 years' time, or whenever the market might be mature enough to allow it, given all the considerations of commerce, it is possible that pod could be separated, demolished, and in fact, the module that would allow for a residential, which is about 20 metres wide, can run along Ewan Street in a sort of similar footprint to the one that you see on here with just the ground plane shown. But that gave consideration also to how you might service it, so where the servicing is. So if on our plan where we've shown end of trip facilities becomes a core central to a residential low-rise tower or something, then it's all possible to be able to do that without impacting leases on the anchors and other shops that might have 10 plus 10 plus whatever, so the answer is it is possible, and it's been given consideration.
Thank you for that. All right, we're going to move now to a discussion and inviting questions to the local government officers, and we have James Fletcher, Sean Wheatland and Cameron Howell online with us today from the City of Stirling. Can we get the team online?
Morning.
Morning, can you hear us clearly?
We can hear you clearly, yes.
Thank you so much. Now, I really don't want you to rehash anything that's in the RA because we've read all of that and so on. But I'm going to give you the opportunity very briefly to make comments, if you wish, about anything that's been raised in the deputations or questions so far today. Otherwise, we can go straight to questions. I'm sure there'll be quite a few. So did you want to start off with comments or do you want to go straight to questions?
No comments. The city's position is outlined in the RER, but more than happy to take on any questions.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm going to start with Councillor Midgedale. Do you have questions of the city officers?
No, I think they've made their position very clear in the RAR.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dudek, any questions?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
All righty. Member Herget, questions of the city officers?
No, thank you. I've no questions at this time.
Member Lafanti.
Thank you for the RA. My question, as I have interpreted the material you have provided, is that there is discretion for us to consider the scale and floor space of the retail tenancy, as well as the development without residential, based on the planning scheme and the associated planning framework provisions. Is that correct?
Through you, Chair, the short answer is yes, that is correct. The city believes that there is scope for discretion. I do agree with Mr. Campbell's earlier comments that the planning framework is multi-layered and can be difficult to use, but the city is confident that given the status of the documents and the strategic intent of our planning framework, there is discretion.
And my follow-up question for that is, in your scheme, I think it is, can't remember the exact clause, you have a general discretionary provision in your scheme that provides discretion to the decision maker. In this case, it includes obviously the DAP to vary provisions within the scheme. Is that correct?
Through you, Chair, yes, that is correct. I believe you might be referencing clause 5.5.1, which is the general variation clause of our scheme. Yes, it does apply in this circumstance.
I might just add there are a handful of provisions where it doesn't apply. They're listed in the section 6.11. We can go through more detail if there's any particular queries relating to that.
Thank you. No, John.
I have quite a few, if you don't mind, but they're largely, well, they all relate to conditions. I note the acoustic assessment has been done and you've included some advice notes in relation to compliance with the noise regs. But in the documentation we've received as part of our pack, there's a statement that further noise assessment and modelling will need to be undertaken as the detailed design progresses to confirm compliance with the noise regs as outlined in the assessment. But there isn't a condition to that effect that you've included. Should we add a condition requiring certification that the development, particularly the yet to be designed mechanical services, will comply with the noise regs prior to commencement of use?
The city would agree that that would be an appropriate condition in this instance.
Okay. And then a simple one, condition 2 refers to the date of approval as the 5th of August 2030. Are you happy for us just to change that administratively?
Yes, I wasn't quite clear from the template if it was meant to be today's meeting or the expiry date.
That's all good. I think we'll go with the decision date. So we'll just tweak that. And then if I can take you to condition 9, it appears to me those requirements are already covered by condition 8. Did you feel both conditions are necessary because one refers to trees and the other refers to landscaping more broadly, or are they a duplicate of each other?
The city would believe that both conditions are appropriate in this instance. One deals with a landscaping plan to be demonstrated and shown to the city, whilst the other one demonstrates a implication of those requirements. So the city would deem that both are appropriate.
Okay. Then I'm looking at conditions 16, 20 and 21. So 16 talks about the payment of a bond. It's part of condition 16. And I'm curious as to why you feel that has a planning basis and why that's not an advice note instead of a planning condition. And then similarly, conditions 20 and 21 look to be technical matters that the city will deal with outside the planning process. And I'm curious as to why they've been included as conditions.
Through you, Chair, in our internal correspondence with our engineering team, it is often recommended that conditions are imposed for such items as these to ensure that there is number one, it is linked to the planning application in some way, but it steps out the requirements and obligations through a condition setting rather than an advice note. It makes the process clearer and certainty for the applicant in what they must do from an engineering point of view, rather than an advice note that can be open to, let's say, a little bit more variance on what might occur post-approval.
I understand that, but they're not planning conditions, are they?
Through you, Chair, they're not, well, they're specifically engineering conditions, but in the preparation of this report, we thought there was sufficient merit in including them in the recommendation.
Okay. Thank you. Looking at condition 29, does that duplicate the requirements of condition 25?
Through you, Chair, they are separate in a way. Condition 25 deals with the parking bays internal to the site and ensures that they are drained and paved appropriately and manoeuvring is maintained, where condition 29 would deal with the rest of the development, including the driveways and parking areas.
Okay, thank you. And then looking at the public art condition, would it make sense to have the details of the public art prior to commencement of development and then installation prior to occupation, or are you comfortable to require both at the later occupation stage?
Through you, Chair, the city is comfortable with the condition as worded. The city holds a public art panel to deem whether the art is appropriate and meets the requirements to be considered public art within a public place. So the city is satisfied with the condition as written.
Thank you. And then I just wanted to check condition 35. I needed to read it a few times. So does condition 35 require that the fire hard stand is or isn't located in the road reserve?
Through you, Chair, isn't located within the road reserve.
Okay, thank you. And then the safety barrier referenced in condition 36, do you need to put a timeline on that? Do you need that installed prior to occupation?
Through you, Chair, a time associated with prior occupation would be an appropriate mechanism in this instance.
Okay, great. And then Member Herget earlier raised a question about the need for a parking management plan. If the panel was of a mind to include a condition like that, do you have a standard format for such a plan? Or if a condition was included, are there certain things you would like to specify for inclusion in that plan?
Through you, Chair, if a condition such as that were imposed, there are, yes, sort of standardised wordings that we would use, and if you indulge us a bit of time, we could probably fish something out for you.
That would be excellent. Similarly, if there was a new condition relating to a requirement, and I remember Herget, if I get this wrong, for an operational and servicing management plan, is that correct?
I guess I revert, I'm assuming that there'll be a site operations plan generally for the overall proposal. This really what I'm suggesting is specifically relating to servicing movements, including loading and unloading, and a delivery management plan. It'd be collapsed into one simply because the site's not going to accommodate the larger type of trucks.
Yep.
So
great,
there
got
may
that.
be a need to accommodate those on Ewan Street or
Well, we'll talk about the merits of that later. I just
Yeah.
wanted to get the name of the plan. So,
a service loading and delivery management plan is probably the consistent way we've described it in the context of these proceedings.
Thank you. City offices, if we were to look at including a requirement for such a plan, again, is there some standardized wording for things that you would like to see included in such a plan? And if so, do you want to cast your mind to that, please, before we get too much further down the line?
Through you, Chair, we can provide some details for you.
Thank you. That's probably all the questions I have for the city officers at this point. So unless there are any further questions of city officers, we're going to move to the report now. And in order to debate the report, I'm going to seek a mover and seconder for the recommendation in the report. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Member Lafanti. Do I have a seconder? I will. Thank you, Councillor Dudek. Wonderful, thank you. Member Lafanti, you have the floor. Do you wish to speak to the substantive?
Thank you. I am satisfied that the proposed local centre is consistent with the planning framework. I acknowledge that there is areas of discretion that are being sought. However, from my perspective, I am satisfied that these areas of discretion in relation to overall floor space retail, as well as the provision or the lack of provision of residential, does not significantly impact what is a good development for its site. I have given due regard to the submissions, and I am satisfied that the traffic and intersection operations and concerns have been adequately addressed, and the road modifications as incorporated in the report reflect its location and reflect the nature of the site. Of particular interest from my perspective is the location of the site on Scarborough Beach Road. I am very familiar with this site, and I note that whilst there is information suggesting some sort of pedestrian active edge, I do not see that being capable in any form other than what we already have as part of the proposal. It is a very busy road. It has a significant range of intersecting points with an enormous amount of traffic movement. As I spoke earlier today, I'm of the view that the proposal with both its design interfacing Scarborough Beach Road, as well as orientating to the rear or to the alternate streets in Ewan, is an appropriate design for this proposal. It does provide a block and interface between both what is the residential area on one side to the existing road and commercial area, as far as I'm concerned, both in its form and scale, as well as its design details. It is completely appropriate in this location. I note the concerns that have been raised in relation to the size of the development, but in terms of the size of the retail. However, I would concur with the comments provided in the applicant's report that a centre of this nature does require a mix and a range of uses in order to appropriately be sustained in that area. I also see this provides a great opportunity to provide both retail offerings as well as entertainment and leisure offerings and food offerings to the community in a walkable distance. I don't see that it is particularly easy to walk across Scarborough Beach Road in this particular section, and I note that it also is a very small distance from the remaining shopping, and I think that the largest closest directly opposite is the Bunnings building, all of which typically traffic orientated vehicle movement spaces. So as far as I'm concerned, this proposal is appropriate in both its design, form, mix of uses. As I've already indicated, I am confident, or I am not satisfied, that the proposal expectation of an active edge as a town centre is realistic on this particular site, given, as I've already indicated, its intersection and its traffic movement. I have raised the comments regarding safety, which align directly to my concerns and comments about traffic movement, and supporting activity within the site obviously needs to have careful consideration around safety management. I am satisfied that the proposal is supportable, and that the inclusion of and that the discretion is warranted for those areas, and it is appropriate within the provisions of the scheme.
Thank you, Member Lafante. Councillor Dudek, a second. Did you wish to speak?
No.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, I appreciate the questions and appreciate the deputations we've heard. Look forward to seeing what the discussion follows and conditions proposed. So I'll wait for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Midgedale, do you wish to speak?
I do wish to speak. I oppose this development in its current form for many reasons. Clause 6.11.11A of LPS 3 states that an application for land requiring mandatory residential under an approved LDP shall contain a residential component to the satisfaction of the city. The approved Stirling City Centre Precinct Plan LDP Clause 2.1.2.3 sets a minimum number of dwellings for this site with the express objective of achieving the dwelling targets in the Stirling City Centre Structure Plan. The application contains 0 residential dwellings. In my mind, this is not a minor variation. It is the complete absence of a mandatory element of the scheme. The word shall in clause 6.11.11A is directive, not discretionary. The city can't, I don't believe, it is my opinion that the city can't lawfully use its general discretion to waive this requirement. That clause expressly excludes the general discretion power in clause 5.5.1, which lets the city approve non-compliant substantial development, from applying to clause 6.11.11A, mandatory residential requirement. The RAR itself acknowledges this. The officer recommendation instead relies on an argument that the deemed provisions of the Planning and Development LPS Regulations 2015 overrides LPS 3 under S.257B3 of the Planning and Development Act 2005, and that the LDP is a document to which the DAP needs only have due regard rather than be strictly bound by. This obviously is a contestable legal interpretation, not settled fact. The DAP is entitled to disagree with the city's own legal reasoning and give full weight to the LDP's minimum dwelling requirement, particularly given clause 6.11.3B was specifically drafted to prevent this exact discretion being exercised. Also, the RAR's strongest justification for accepting no residential component is that draft LPS 4 is not retaining the existing mandatory residential requirement, and some weight can be given to the new scheme provisions. Draft LPS 4 has not been approved. It hasn't been gazetted. It hasn't even reached the final WAPC endorsement. Giving weight to an unapproved future scheme to justify non-compliance with the current legally operative scheme undermines orderly and proper planning and sets a precedent for developers to bypass current obligations by pointing to any scheme in train. The RAR argues residential is undesirable here due to traffic noise, 6-lane road barrier, and the adjacent 24-hour service station. These are all impacts that Stirling's own planning framework contemplates being managed through design, not grounds to abandon the residential requirement altogether. Notably, a 20 a 2022 mixed-use proposal with 2 apartment towers was previously lodged for this exact site and only withdrawn before determination, demonstrating residential development here is feasible, not merely theoretical. When I look at the community submissions, of 39 submissions received, the single largest substantive objection category related to the absence of a residential component, with 7 citing housing affordability, availability and direct conflict with the city's own planning framework. The DAP should weigh this community expectation, formed with direct reference to LPS 3's own stated dwelling targets for the City of Stirling. The design review panel's own pre-lodgement advice noted it was reviewing the proposal despite the proposal's use and modest scale relative to the ambitions of the relevant planning documents. This is a tacit acknowledgement from the city's own expert design panel that a single-storey commercial shed with rooftop parking falls well short of the vision embedded in LPS 3 and the structure plan for this strategic metropolitan centre, which anticipated multi-storey mixed-use buildings delivering housing alongside commercial floor space. This application is very telling to me. It's sort of really defines where we as a city and other cities find themselves today. I do note that the applicant themselves has clearly outlined cost prohibitive building, residential building, as being the reason for not including residential in this application. To approve this application in its current form, to me, is to support the problem and not the solution to the housing crisis in this state. So I would like to move, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, so I would like to move to refuse. I've got wording, suggested wording for a.
Okay.
Would you like
So
for a
the way
refusal?
that we'll play this is
Mhm.
under our standing orders. If this motion to approve is lost, you may table the alternate, but you can't insert the alternate for refusal during debate on the approval.
Okay, thank you. Then I will leave it at that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor. Member Hurgett, you wish to speak to the substantive? Heidi, can you hear us?
Oh, yeah.
Do you wish to speak to the substantive motion?
I'd like to propose an amendment. So I don't know if this is the point at work, not an amendment or an additional condition, if you like.
Yes, you can.
Okay. I'll speak to the substantive in the first instance. I think overall it's a very good proposal for this particular side of the road, and in the context of the emerging Stirling city centre in this particular area. I don't think any of us under the illusion that it's a wonderful traffic operational corridor along there. And that is not directly related to this site specifically. It's just generally there's been issues down there for a very long time, potentially in the future. If modal split increases and they build a high frequency transit corridor, a lot of these things are up in the air. The reality is refusing this particular application based on traffic, I don't think is realistic. So I do believe this proposal has the way that it's been presented, generally speaking, caters to a range of users on the site. It's on a high frequency bus route. It's making an allowance for pedestrians, it makes an allowance for cyclists to access the site. Staff, the way that it's proposed to manage the staff parking, the access arrangements, the degree of certainty that I now have with respect to service loading and delivery management protocols, the local neighborhood intent of trying to attract the local neighborhood or a higher proportion of, I guess, local custom, and by the sheer nature of the types of tenancies, it likely will located in this center. I actually think it's a very good proposal. You know, despite some reservations I might have had with respect to some of the outstanding traffic issues, I think those can be managed through the conditions are already attached to the recommended approval, and the addition of one that relates directly to servicing, delivery management, and loading protocols associated with the tenancies. So for that reason, I support the application.
Thank you. You wish to move an amendment, you said?
Yeah, I'd like to move an additional condition, preparation of a service loading and delivery management plan.
All right, so what we'll do is, before you talk to the merits of that, let's get the wording right so that we know what we are discussing. Can we get the City of Stirling officers back online, please? Potential.
So we can read some wording, we'll share it on the screen.
Thank you. The city officers have sent through some wording that's going to be shared on the screen. Let's see if we're happy with that.
Okay.
Very efficient. Okay. So
That
prior
sounds
to
great.
the occupation and or commencement of the approved development, a service loading and delivery management plan shall be submitted to and approved by the City of Stirling. The approved plan shall thereafter be implemented and maintained for the life of development to the satisfaction of the city. The plan shall address but not be limited to the following: identification of all servicing, loading, unloading and delivery activities associated with the development, details of the expected frequency, timing and duration of servicing and delivery vehicle movements, identification of the types and sizes of vehicles anticipated to access the site, including rigid trucks, articulated vehicles, waste collection vehicles and courier vehicles. And I think I did that pretty well without my glasses. Sure.
No, I'm happy. I'm
Member
happy with
Hogan,
that.
are you
I'm
happy with that?
happy
All
with
right.
that. It's great. Thank you.
All right, do I have let's get the members back on screen. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Thank you, Member Lafanti. Member Herget, do you wish to talk to the merits or otherwise of that condition?
Oh, no, I think I've addressed it. I think I've addressed it sufficiently within my original remarks.
Thank you very much. Does any other member wish to speak for or against that amendment? No, let's put that amendment to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Sorry, Councillor Migdale, how are you voting on the amendment?
Against.
Thank you. That is carried 4-1. Does that conclude your discussion on the substantive, Member Herget?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will briefly talk to the recommendation. I will support the recommendation for approval. I do wish to move a series of amendments to, sorry, Member Dudek, do you wish to speak?
Just with your indulgence, I will ask one final question, but I'm happy to do so after you've spoken.
Okay, all right, we can do that. I'd like to move a series of amendments to conditions. The first amendment is deletion of the second last paragraph in condition 16 relating to payment of a works bond. And I would like to rather move that as an advice note. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Member Lafanti. I understand why the city operationally, why it is easier, having been in that role before, to have these matters included as planning conditions. It makes sure that the applicant knows about them, and it makes sure that the conditions can be cleared efficiently. However, payment of a works bond is not a planning matter and has no planning basis. It is a separate local government requirement, which I'm very happy to include as an advice note, but it's not a planning condition. So therefore, I'd like to shift that paragraph to an advice note. Do you wish to speak a seconder?
No.
Does any other member wish to speak for or against that amendment? Okay, all those in favour? Against? All right, that amendment is carried. Similarly, I would like to delete conditions 20 and 21. and include them rather as advice notes. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Member Lafanti. Again, these are technical matters that the city should deal with outside the planning process. I'm mindful if we're trying to capture every aspect related remotely to this planning approval or this development within the planning approval, that's not appropriate. So they don't have planning basis. They are going to be included as advice notes, so the applicant will be aware of them and the city can clear the other conditions. Do you wish to speak as?
Yes, thank you. My only additional comment would be is that consideration on these particular matters, as well as a range of other matters, accepts that and notes that there are a whole lot of other stages and legal obligations to applicants in bringing a development to fruition, and that from my perspective, I think it is reasonable that we're focusing on the planning aspects and we are not diluting or diminishing any of the other obligations an applicant has through any other processes or legislation.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to speak for or against the amendment to those conditions or deletion of those conditions? All right, look, let's put that amendment to the vote. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Thank you. And I would like to amend condition 36 to add the words prior to occupation or use of the development. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Member Herget. Look, the reason is the current wording of the condition doesn't include a timeline for completion of the action, so this just makes it really clear when that needs to occur. Does any other member wish to speak to that amendment? Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? That is carried 4-1. Then I would like to add a new condition relating to acoustic certification with the wording as follows. Prior to occupation or use of the development, certification by a suitably qualified acoustic expert is to be provided to the satisfaction of the city that the noise from all mechanical services and equipment complies with the prescribed standards detailed in the Environmental Protection Noise Regulations 1997. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Member Lafanti. Look, the reason for this new condition is while the general operations of the development have already been modelled and are expected to meet the assigned levels in the noise regulations, details of the mechanical equipment to be installed are not currently available and will be addressed through the detailed design stage. Now, once that mechanical equipment has been included in the design and installed on site, the city would require confirmation that noise from those mechanical services and equipment does not exceed the assigned levels of the regulations. Does any other member wish to speak to that amendment? No. Let's vote on that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. And then I would like to insert a new condition further to the questions raised by Member Herget earlier relating to the requirement for a parking management plan. Has the city sent through some wording for that? Can we pop that on the screen, please? Thank you. So the wording of the condition would be prior to the occupation and or commencement of the approved development, a parking management plan shall be submitted to and approved by the City of Stirling. The plan shall detail the allocation, signage and ongoing management of parking bays. The approved plan shall thereafter be implemented and maintained for the life of the development to the satisfaction of the city. Thank you. Can I just add an extra word in there? Can I add the word wayfinding? Allocation, well, that is signage. Ignore that last comment. Thank you very much. I'm happy with the wording of that. If we can get the panel members back. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Seconded, Member Herget. For the reasons expressed by Member Herget earlier, I'm happy to move that amendment. Member Herget, do you wish to speak as seconder to that amendment?
Look, I think the preparation of such a plan can really only enhance the management of infrastructure on the site. You know, it's obviously a suitable coupling with the service loading and delivery management plan. It's just going to result in some certainty with respect to risk management for a variety of users on the site, particularly within the car park and at the access points. In terms of how the car parking is managed, what's public, what's staff, what's short-term, what's long-term, if there's going to be a charging mechanism, how to use it, where to use it, when to use it. I think it's just going to result in much safer outcomes, certainly with respect to impact on the local amenity of the local road network to the south of the site. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Does any other member wish to speak to that proposed amendment? No, let's put the amendment to the vote. All those in favour? Against? That is carried 4-1. Thank you. I'll speak to the substantive now. I think this is a well-designed development with high quality finishes and landscaping that will transform a large underutilised parcel of land in a designated activity centre, enhancing the service offer and amenity to the surrounding area. Given the wording of clause 611(9)(a) of the planning scheme, I'm satisfied that all uses are permitted uses under the special control area that applies to the site. I'm also satisfied that the large format tenancy is appropriate in this specific location. It aligns with the objectives of the special control area. In relation to the requirement for inclusion of residential uses on this site, I agree that this panel can approve the proposal without a residential use, given there is no approved activity centre plan over the site, and the local development plan that specifies a certain number of dwellings is a due regard document only. In giving due regard to that document, as well as draft local planning scheme number 4, and I am mindful the comments that Councillor Midgedale raised are accurate, you do need to apply the appropriate amount of weight to that planning scheme given the status of that document. But that document to me signals what the city's intent is for the future of that site, irrespective of where it is in the planning process. And it doesn't require the inclusion of residential uses on the site. And as we're taking into account the existing site context, I am also satisfied there is planning merit in not enforcing inclusion of residential users at this stage. As planning decision makers, we have to be careful about making planning decisions that are based on the viability of a development. That is not our business. But I will say this, in enforcing residential through this application or any application on this site doesn't mean you'll get residential. You'll get nothing at this point in time. So I just wanted to make that clear. We're not going to, in reality, by refusing this on the basis that there's no residential, automatically get residential. It is likely in the current climate that there will be nothing for a longer period of time. The city has done a very thorough assessment of the proposal against the relevant matters of clause 67 of the DIN provisions. I'm satisfied that the proposal meets all relevant requirements. I have reviewed and I agree with the city's detailed assessment against the primary controls of the underlying planning framework, which are included as an attachment to the RA. I'm also satisfied that the variations to LDP provisions, which actually defer to provisions of a range of local planning policies, are appropriate and have planning merit. I'm of the view that despite the discretion sought against various provisions, the development aligns with and achieves the objectives and the overall intent of the local development plan. The proposal was reviewed by the city's design review panel on 2 occasions prior to submission of the application, and that amended plans were received to address most of the suggestions made by the design review panel. I also note the city's own detailed assessment against the 10 design principles of SPP 7.0, and I am satisfied that the proposal achieves all 10 of those principles. I note that concerns were raised about traffic and parking by some members of the community and one of the earlier presenters, but I note that the number of parking bays proposed complies with scheme requirements, and a condition is being recommended to ensure the appropriate balance of public and short stay parking bays, coupled with the parking management plan, which we seek to include via an additional condition of approval. I am satisfied with the parking arrangements. I also note that the city's technical experts are satisfied that the road network can accommodate the additional traffic generated by the proposal, and that amendments were made to the proposal to address some safety concerns that were identified with the original design. I note 39 submissions were received during public consultation process, and that there were actually a similar number of people supporting the development as they were opposing it. I also note with some interest that some of the objections to the development were also raised as reasons to support it. I'm satisfied that all matters raised as concerns about the proposal have been appropriately addressed in the city's RA and via conditions of approval, and for those reasons I will support the substantive. I'm going to revert back at this stage to the mover. Member Lafanti, do you wish to close?
I have no additional comments to make.
Thank you. Councillor Dudek, you had a question. Have we answered it? Sorry.
Thank you. Yes, it's since been answered. Don't worry. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay. We will now move to vote on the recommendation in front of us as amended through the process. All those in favour? Against? That is carried 4-1. Thank you very much. We will allow the current applicant team to invite the next bunch of presenters.
Can I propose a comfort break at this time, please?
You may take a comfort break while we change over the applicant. That's fine.
Thank you. Thank you, presiding member. Okay.
Do we have our other members back online? Just call her on her mobile. We're going to get moving without her otherwise. Right.
Back now.
Welcome back to all our members. Our next item on the agenda is item 3.2, additional parking and other works for the Karrinyup Shopping Centre, DAP number 24/0280. We have one presentation on this item today, Lena Jetsman and David Marana from Row Group. You know the drill. Your 3 minutes starts when you're ready, and we will ask you questions.
Perfect. I'll keep it short. Dear panel members, thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you today. I'm Lena from Row Group, and together with my colleague David Majorana, we are here in the capacity of the landowner's town planning consultant. With me here today I have Anthony Johnston from Orcon, the traffic engineer, and David O'Brien from TRCB, the project architect. Firstly, we would like to express our support for the responsible authority report prepared by the City of Stirling. We are happy to see that this application is up for determination today, and we request the DAP to approve it in line with the city's recommendations. We would also like to take this opportunity to clarify again that this application pertains to the car parking component only, and it does not include any modifications to RAM 14, as was incorrectly claimed in an online article that was published late last week. We believe the proposed car parking is a very positive addition to the shopping centre, and we are available for any questions from members. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I will start with questions of our members online. Councillor Mitchdale, any questions for the team? We can't hear you, Councillor. Do you have any questions?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Dudek, any questions of the applicant team?
Yeah, just on that last claim regarding it having nothing to do with the shopping centre expansion, just the extra car parking bays. Can perhaps the presenter from Row Group just expand on that a bit?
Sure. The original application pertained to additional levels of car parking. as well as access modifications to ramp 14. And we have now decided to proceed with the additional car parking levels only, and no modifications to ramp 14 are proposed.
And I might just further ask, are there plans in the future to perhaps include these in a future development application?
As of yet, we have not received any instructions from our client on how to proceed with ramp 14. Accordingly, we cannot answer that at this point in time.
Thank you. And I might just save a final question on that, and just earmark it for the City of Stirling, just regarding these sort of applications. If we were to approve these extra car parking, would that then, I don't think prejudice is the right word, but influence the future development potential or add weight to an approval of a larger development, as was outlined in the online article? But I'm happy to save that for the City of Stirling, and I'm also happy if Row Group do want to comment on that as well.
I'm happy to respond to that one, presiding member. The two components were included in the original application, I think made in around December 24. They are not dependent on each other. They're sort of mutually exclusive. They just happen to be included in the same application. The ramp 14 matter became quite protracted in dealing with the referral agencies, particularly the main roads. So there's certainly no interdependence on the two matters. So we wouldn't see that there'd be any presumption in supporting the car park extension, that the support or otherwise for the ramp 14 proposal would necessarily follow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Member Herget, questions of the applicant team?
Yeah, just a couple of issues I'd like some clarification on. Does the proposal entail any changes to the access to the bus services and the location along the Carrinup Road frontage?
It does not. Sorry, I jumped ahead there. No, it does not.
All right, so the bus pickup drop off is going to be in the same location, and the proposal is not going to impact people being able to access those bus stops or those services.
Correct.
Okay. Will the proposal improve the existing exiting issues during peak periods? Those are well known throughout the area in terms of peak demand periods. And while I appreciate we can't design every retail car park, particularly a major center like this, to cater to Christmas demands, that's unrealistic. It's not feasible. It's not financially viable. The part is the intent behind this to streamline and improve those exiting maneuvers, so you don't have hour and a half queuing to get out at 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon.
So I'll answer that as a traffic engineer. The proposal is to provide further supply to meet the demand that's occurring in there, reduce some of the internal circulation, hence reducing some of the internal congestion. The aspects that you're referring to in terms of exiting at the end of the peaks, it won't impact that in terms of it won't improve it. That will remain unchanged. There are other things that we're looking at to improve that, and that was ramp 14 one of those aspects to try improve the exiting, but unfortunately we couldn't align with main roads on that. But there are other things that we're looking at to try and improve those aspects, that the exiting. And that's a lot of the customer comments come through on the exiting as well. So we're well aware of those concerns.
Yeah, I guess further to that, it's kind of like, is it the chicken or the egg? Is it robbing Peter to pay Paul, if you like? You're providing additional car parking, which is obviously, a net bonus for the shops and in terms of like the customers and catering to the potential custom. But I suppose that the access arrangements, although I think some of them are going to be somewhat changed along Francis, correct me if I'm wrong, it was a little bit confusing. Is there any changes to the access on the side road Francis, I believe it's called, on the eastern side?
No, there's not.
Now, in the context of the proposed 267 additional bays, are there proposed to be dedicated electric vehicle charging bays within that additional supply? Any particular special purpose bays, such as, say, 15-minute bays, pickup drop-off bays, ride share, parents with prams, etc., seniors parking?
Do you want me to talk to that, or?
Yep.
Yeah, the additional bays are on the rooftop level, and there's some reconfiguration of the line marking arrangement because the current upper level is now going to be 2 bays below, 2 levels below the final. So there is some reconfiguration of bays within that context, but the bay types that you mentioned haven't been landed on or finalised completely, and they'll be worked on through design development. On the northern car bays that are getting a roof over the top, there's some lobby changes there associated with valet parking. So the detail that you're talking about exists on site already. Those additional bays are really just about responding to parking demand analysis, and as was suggested, that increased number of bays will reduce internal circulation, which will take some pressure off the internal flow rather than the exit at particular peak times.
Well, presumably one of the technical attachments is at the back of the RAR for this particular application was, I guess, what was referred to as it was an all-in-one. It was car parking plan, travel plan, etc. And I believe it was probably initially done for the original application, which has since been built and commissioned in 2021. And then since then, there have been some 2024 updates, if you like. Has anything been updated since that time as part of this particular application coming to DAP in 2026?
No. No, sorry. Knows the answer to that. No changes since 2024. It's a plan, so implementation of that plan. The update from the original document 2024 was talking about what had been put in since the development was constructed, and some of the both hard infrastructure, if you like, and soft planning aspects too, as well as a mode share survey.
Okay. Now I'm going to pivot to the feedback received from Main Roads, and I'm confused as well about the whole notion of the status of exit 14. Their remarks and feedback that is documented on page 523 refers to the proposed conversion of exit 14 from an exit only, conversion of entry only to an exit only onto Karen Road.
So that, can I just, that's not part of this application.
That's great.
So we're not considering that today at all. So
okay, that's fine. So that's fine, because it's referred to, but then it's referred to differently in some of the supporting reports. So if that doesn't form part of a material part of this application, that answers my question. I guess we'll deal with that if it in fact does come up in the future. Just a couple of just general questions. Wayfinding and signage. It was referred to briefly, and I guess the initial discussions and some questions, etc. Is there an intent to actually update the wayfinding and signage plan to because I know there's a lot of tech installed, and presumably that's going to carry on to part of the car park, etc. Is that going to be included in potentially any updated car parking management plan? Is there going to be a separate plan that's going to be submitted to council for review prior to occupancy?
I think the response to that would probably be similar to what we'd heard earlier in the morning, this morning. I think the detailed documentation design of the car park would address those sorts of matters, line marking, wayfinding signage, internal signage, etc. So that would be undertaken at that detailed design and documentation stage.
Okay. Last question. Was there a road safety design audit done for this proposal?
No, there wasn't, because the changes are internal to the centre. Stirling, City of Stirling do the usual car park checks to make sure they meet the Australian standards, which are fairly strict. And changes were made on the original design to make sure everything was met in terms of those standards and City of Stirling comments. I assume the same would happen once the design is developed further.
Okay, a road safety design audit doesn't relate to the roads. Yes, it relates to the layout of the proposed works in the context of operational constraints. Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions for now.
Thank you. Member Lafanti, questions of the applicant?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. My question relates to confirmation that your report speaks to the parking is going to all remain public and there is no charge on parking. I think you've made this comment throughout your report. Is that correct, that the parking is currently as proposed, there's no change to that?
That's correct. All operators, as it currently does within the centre, with no change to those parking arrangements. There won't be charged parking introduced as part of this proposal.
Thank you. Well, my second question would have been about congestion with paid parking. And my second question, again, more specifically, is are there time frame controls for access to the car park that we are dealing with?
I'm not sure if that's been captured in what you've done at all, Anthony.
No, do you mean in terms of when it's
Limit-
closed
limitation of
overnight
day?
or like
Yeah,
4
I'm
hours
conscious
stay?
that the facility provides a range of things, not just retail, but a whole lot of others. And I couldn't pick up, I don't recall that specifically there, any barriers that prevent after hours access to the car parks.
Yeah, my understanding is that the car park does close overnight. It needs to for security reasons, apart from the western side, which has got the more after hours precinct. So it's managed that way.
Okay, I did not pick that up. Thank you. They might know, they might. Oh, my last question, that's what I was speaking to the officers about, sorry.
Okay, I just have one question, and it relates to the new roof structure over the existing car bays on level 2 of the Northern Car Park. What materials are you proposing for that structure?
That may be a design question.
Yeah, so lightweight metal roofing, basically, with the new lighting system. The detail of that hasn't been developed.
Okay, thank you very much for that. All right, unless there are any further questions for the applicant team, we're going to move to invite questions of the local government officers, and we still have James Fletcher, Sean Wheatland.
Sorry, can I just ask one question quickly before we move on? Thank you. My question to the applicant is, has there been or will there be any consideration to cover, to have the covering, the upper roof covering includes solar panels?
I'm not aware that there has been any consideration of that. David, have you given any?
There hasn't been yet,
that?
but in light of the client's or the landowner's ESD credentials, there's a good chance that given it's north facing and otherwise has good access to daylight, it would be a good location to co-locate some ESD, some EV panels. Sorry, not EV panels.
Thank
EV
you.
panels.
Okay, do we have our local government officers with us?
Yeah, still here.
We can't see you just yet. There you are. Hi, and welcome back. All right, did you want to make any brief comments in relation to deputations made, or straight to questions again?
I'll just make some brief comments in relation to the questions that were raised to the applicant, and then happy to answer any further questions as required. So this application as it stands does deal with just the additional parking as noted within the plans and the applicant's report. The comments relating to ramp 14 didn't propose any additional floor space to the development itself, and it only dealt with access arrangements. Currently, it operates as a entry into Karrinyup Shopping Centre. The applicant sought to alter that arrangement so that it would be an exit. Unfortunately, due to safety concerns and potential conflicts with road users and the public transport bus depot, it was deemed unsatisfactory at this point. So due to amendments to the plans, ramp 14 is no longer going ahead at this point in time, and as the city's assessment outlines, it is only for the additional car parking on the existing site.
Thank you.
Happy to answer any other questions. I will note that the additional car parking proposed, the extra 2 floors, does not propose to alter any existing arrangements in relation to the operational of the car parking and the closing of that parking facility.
Thank you. Members, any questions of the officers? Councillor Midgedale.
No questions, thank you.
Councillor Dudek.
I'm also fine now, thank you.
Thank you. Member Herget.
Not at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Member Lafette.
Thank you. I have one question relating to the recommendation. The preamble of the recommendation refers to modifications to access arrangements, and my question is in the commentary that's been provided by applicants in their submission and by officers, is that should be removed. And I note that the plans DA5 and DA9 show that it is not included. So my question is, should those 4 words, 5 words, be removed from the preamble? What's your comment on that, officers?
Before you respond to that, just because this is a contentious issue and obviously it's out there in the public realm, should we remove that wording from the preamble, and should we look at including a very brief condition that is worded as follows? This approval does not include any modification works to access ramp 14.
So through the chair, the city's comments in relation to the access arrangements dealt with the internal access arrangements to the areas such as the valet parking. Should you wish to remove the notation of access arrangements to provide clarity in the approval, the city wouldn't have any objections to this, but that specific comments related to the internal access.
My second question is more of a confirmation really from yourselves, and it relates to the intersection at Karrinyup Road and Francis. That is at various points a very busy intersection. I note Main Roads have said they are satisfied with the proposal and that no change to the intersection is required. Is that the city's has raised no concerns either in relation to that movement?
Yes, through the chair, the city has assessed the application on its merits for what it's proposing in comparison to the overall development itself. The city is currently doing a look at the surrounding road networks as part of its own body of work, but the application itself, the city is satisfied that the additional parking would not result in an increase to or a negligible impact to the surrounding road networks.
And my final question is in relation to the current access to that car park that is being modified. My reading of the details is that there's no change at that ground level access point from Francis.
That would be correct from the city's assessment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions from me. So we've focused a lot in the RA on the parking. But part of the proposal is also the addition of that new roof structure over the existing car base on level 2. There doesn't seem to be much information about this component of the proposal in the RA. And so can you give me some comment on whether the addition of this roof would have any impact on the residents of the adjoining apartment development, and specifically, especially given we don't have details of the proposed roofing material at this point, whether you will have any mechanism to ensure their amenity isn't impacted by potential glare from the roof or by solar panels that may be installed. I guess I'm asking, would you be happy for us to add a condition that requires those details and requires confirmation that glare from any roofing or any structures on that roofing will not unduly impact those residents?
Yeah, through the chair, the city is satisfied with the built form requirements as proposed for the roofing structure on that second floor. Should the panel wish to provide some level of condition relating to the materiality, the city would have no objection to this condition being added. The city has dealt with this previously in relation to at the detailed design stage, but it does understand the panel's concern and would have no objection.
Okay, and then just a very simple one, condition 4 refers to both a construction management plan and a site management plan. Should the wording simply refer to a construction management plan to avoid any confusion?
Through the chair, yes, that would be better.
All right, excellent. Unless there are any further questions of the city officers, we're going to move to the report. I would like to seek a mover and a seconder for the recommendation in the report. Moved, Councillor Midgedale. Second, do I have a seconder? Councillor not Councillor Lafanti, Member Lafanti. Thank you. Councillor Midgedale, do you wish to speak?
Nothing really to add. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. There's a need and it is a fit for purpose resolution to that need. I do note that we're going to see an overall increase of 1.45% of car bays on site, which hopefully will in and of itself mean better, faster egress and access, given that usually the hold-up is people are waiting to pull into a bay. So one could argue that more bays means less waiting. We'll have to wait and see, but I think that it is good use of the space. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Lafanti.
I am supportive of these changes. I note that whilst PTA and DOT do have some concerns about the additional parking bays based on the supporting ongoing public transport network. From my perspective, whilst I also agree with that comment generally about the improvements to the public transport network, I note that this particular centre is a very high demand centre with a range of facilities, and it is currently accessed and it is car dominated. It has a lot of access points and includes from broader areas, and I think that recognises the range of facilities that are provided at the centre. I don't share those same concerns. I think the addition of parking on this site is significant and supported because the centre currently can congest into the streets and the surrounding area, and so by getting those bays of those cars off the street and into the centre itself is appropriate. It also does provide for movement while people are trying to are banking, trying to wait to get into the centre. So from my perspective, I am fully supportive of the additional parking for this centre, particularly given its location and context. At this juncture, I would, however, like to move Amendment 1. Yes, my Amendment 1 is a combination of the removal of the words modification to access arrangements and in the preamble, and the inclusion of a condition, which is a new condition, and I think the language that you used, presiding member, was this approval does not include access ramp 14, but you might have had some additional words.
I think the words were this approval does not include any modification works to access ramp 14.
And I would like to incorporate that using the language you've just given. If there's a seconder, I'll speak to it.
As seconder of the substantive, or do you want to wish to move it as an amendment?
Amendment, sorry.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Thank you, Member Herget. Speak to it.
Yes, I do. This threw me a little bit when I read this. I read through all the documentation, and from my perspective, the reason for removing it is to create clarity. There's been a lot of discussion about the impact of RAMP 14, both in the documentation and broader online, and it includes commentary from Main Roads as well as reference of the exclusion of it in various plans. So I believe it's just appropriate that we tighten and clarify what we're actually dealing with today is specifically related to the parking area and does not include any changes to that.
Member Herget, do you wish to speak to the amendment?
Sorry, I've just turned the audio on. Just further to that, I echo member Vicente's remarks with respect to the confusion relating to access, not access, etc. So I think this clarifies things immensely, and I'm supportive of it.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to speak to that amendment? I will briefly speak to it. I do understand the city's comments that the internal access arrangements associated with the parking form part of the application. I think it is prudent to remove that commentary just to avoid any confusion with the public from the preamble. Those internal access arrangements are incidental to and part of the extra parking structure, so I don't think we need to refer to them in the preamble, so I'm happy to support the amendment. Let's vote on that amendment. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Back to you.
No, I've made all my comments.
All right, thank you. Other members wish to speak to the substantive? Councillor Dudek? No. Member Herget?
I'm supportive of the substantive with an amendment. I'd like to propose an amendment now or an additional condition.
Thank you. You can tell us what that condition says.
It's just echoing what we dealt with in the last item.
For a parking management
the wording needs to be finessed a bit. Preparation of a detailed car parking management, wayfinding, signage, and parking technology plan to be submitted to the city prior to occupancy. The most recent one that was appended to the RAR is dated 2024. It's 2026. Things have changed, so I'd like to propose an updated one.
Thank you. So before we talk to that or get a seconder, let's clarify that we can use similar wording for that the City of Stirling provided for the previous planning application, but we will just change the terminology of that plan to reference what what Member Herget has just raised, and I don't think it needs any of that other explanatory information in the parking management plan itself. The title, I think, covers it.
Okay. Yep.
All right. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Thank you, Councillor Midgedale. Member Herget, do you wish to speak further to that amendment?
There's been a significant investment and time spent on addressing the parking issues, I guess, over and over the last 5 years. I think it's very important that this entails increase of about 5 to 6% of the overall parking supply without changes to access. At this point, the applicant has confirmed that this additional supply is unlikely to have a material impact on some of the issues that the public is aware of in terms of exiting during demand times and queues and congestions that'll have to be investigated. Hopefully, some of these issues can be addressed in the context of a preparation of an updated plan that addresses specifically the wayfinding, the signage, the parking technology that they're proposing to use up there. So I think that's important to actually include that kind of wording in the amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Midgedale, do you wish to speak to that amendment?
No, thank you.
No. All right. Does any other member wish to speak to the amendment? No, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Member Herget, back to you to talk to the substantive if you wish to add anything further.
Nothing further, thank you.
All right, thank you. I believe everyone except myself has spoken to the substantive. I will also support the recommendation for approval, but before talking to the substantive, I'd like to move amendments, well, 2 amendments. The one is to amend condition 4, which will now be condition 5, given we've added a new condition 2, to change references to a site management plan to a construction management plan. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Midgedale. The reason is the current wording refers to both the construction management plan and site management plan, and the change in terminology will ensure consistency and avoid any confusion. Does any member wish to speak to that amendment? No, let's put that amendment to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. My second amendment is to add a new condition that states, prior to lodgement of the building permit application, the applicant shall provide the city details of the proposed materials and colours to be used for the new roof structure over the existing car bays on level 2 of the northern car park, and confirmation that the amenity of residents of the adjoining apartment development will not be unduly impacted by glare from this roof or associated infrastructure like solar panels to the satisfaction of the city. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Midgedale. Look, the reason for this is there's limited information in the report about the proposed material to be used for the new roof structure, and we've heard from the applicant they're not quite there yet, and that's understandable. It is therefore uncertain whether there could be any impact on the adjoining residents, who live in a taller building than this roof in terms of glare from the roof of the structure. Addition of the condition will ensure that this has been properly considered prior to installation of the roof. Does any other member wish to speak for or against the amendment? No, let's put that amendment to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Very briefly, I'm satisfied that the proposal aligns with the objectives of the special control area, will have no negative impact on the surrounding area. The additional parking is on the same footprint as the existing structure, will sit below the highest point of the overall shopping centre, and overshadowing from additions to the parking structure will not impact adjoining development, but will fall primarily on the subject site at Karrinyup Road. Although the number of bays exceeds the maximum parking rate outlined in the WA Planning Manual, this is a guidance document only, and I'm satisfied with the information and the explanation provided by the applicant around parking challenges during peak trading periods. And I would suggest that if any of us have visited Karrinyup Shopping Centre in recent times, they would have experienced that firsthand, and that the additional parking is required to accommodate that existing demand. Given there will be no corresponding increase in net lettable area, and given the findings of the traffic impact assessment provided by the applicant and supported by the city's technical experts, I'm satisfied the extra bays will not materially increase patronage to the centre or create additional impact to the surrounding network. With that, I will revert to the mover. Councillor Midgedale, do you wish to say anything in closing?
Nothing, thanks.
Nothing further. Let's put the recommendation then to the vote as amended. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on in the agenda very quickly. Item 4, Form 2 DAP applications. There are nil. Item 5, Section 31 SAT reconsiderations for the City of Stirling, also nil. Other business, all SAT applications and Supreme Court appeals for the DAPs are listed on the website for those who may be interested. With that, I will close the meeting at 11:46 a.m. I will thank all the applicants for coming in today and doing their presentations, the city staff for their assistance, all our members that have participated today, and our wonderful secretariat staff who have assisted us through this meeting before and after. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Tim.
Thank you all.